This is class 2 of the SEO Bootcamp series brought to you by Moz, talking about keyword research. In this module, we'll be discussing how to organize your keyword research to align with some of your business goals. So we talked about search visibility and its impact on keyword analysis. We're going to discuss how to organize your research briefly, and then we'll dive into, in separate modules, how to analyze keywords specifically and how to scale those processes for analysis to find good keywords. So let's jump into how to organize keyword research. There's two factors to consider. One of them that we've discussed in these classes already, and another that should be slightly deeper dive. The first is the sales funnel stages, and we'll review those briefly. And then we're also going to talk about semantic keyword topics. So we'll discuss each one of these individually, and then we'll go into marrying them up in a way that allows you to actually identify decent keywords. So let's talk about this first one, the sales funnel and sales funnel stages. Here's a graphic that sort of represents the sales funnel. The sales funnel, brief review, oftentimes discussed as things that are in the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, and your purchase. So as a person is moving towards purchasing something or doing something or navigating somewhere based upon their desire for a product or service, oftentimes they travel down this path. They start often at the top of the funnel, and the top of the funnel would be them learning how to define their problem. So we used an example in a previous course about putting in, a road. How do I put in a road? What are the considerations I need for that? But you could think of this associated with anything. Imagine buying a gift for someone where you're investigating what kinds of things might be relevant for that person. You don't really know necessarily brand names. There's not a lot of technical terminology associated with that. Those would be kind of top of the funnel searches, informational gathering searches. Once you've decided maybe on some of the different options you might consider, you move into the middle of the funnel. The middle of the funnel tends to be comparisons of different things, or similar, the something versus something else, or assessing different feature sets, or considering whether or not it's a build versus buy. Should I fix this sink at home myself, or should I hire someone to do it for me? Those are kind of middle of the funnel sorts of search queries and intent. You're researching different solutions. You often have a little bit of technical terminology. And bottom of the funnel kinds of queries and search intent and behaviors tend to be isolating specific features of whatever choice you've made. So if I am hiring someone to come and fix my sink, then maybe price is important to me and I'm looking around at different types of price points. Or if I've decided on a gift for a friend, then maybe the price is a consideration, or maybe quality or the color or availability. Those are the kinds of things, reviews and whatnot. A lot of branded searches take place in the bottom of the funnel. Tends to be a lot more competitive because it's so close to the purchase. And then you make your purchase, and that purchase might even be a matter of just navigating to your site, going to a nonprofit, making a donation, getting involved, or actually purchasing something if it's e-commerce. So you can see there's these different phases of the sales funnel. We should take those into account when we think about the types of keywords we've selected. Previously in these courses, we've talked about the differences between the types of search queries that occur in these different phases of the sales funnel. Okay, so that's one factor to consider. And again, introducing it here, and we'll talk about it again later and marry these two concepts up. The second concept or factor to consider would be the semantic search aspect. Hummingbird is the prevailing algorithm used by Google, where it relies on looking at words within the context or within a contextual framework that they exist within. Gone are the days where you just have a page that has a bunch of words of the same word on it, and the search engine is just counting those words and seeing whether or not they exist or not. The semantic aspect of Hummingbird is that it's looking for the value that this page presents for a given concept, based upon what sorts of other words are showing up on the page, based upon basically trying to understand what the value of that page is. And so when we think about organizing our research, we want to take into account this conceptual or semantic framework. And I'll show you how we can kind of look at that. I'll give you an example related to this, but you'll definitely want to read up on how Hummingbird works and some of the different changes that have taken place in a world post-Hummingbird. So let's think about this semantic search concept for a moment, and we'll use an example. And so just follow through with me on this little story that I'm going to tell. So imagine that within this blue circle represents all of the keywords that are related to your industry. So if you are selling shoes, all of the associated millions of keywords associated with shoe-related queries are inside this circle. Outside this circle are queries related to jet engines. It's like never two will those cross. So we'd say everything inside here are queries that are associated with my industry or my product lines or my business, okay? Now imagine that within this circle, the search engine gets all these different queries and has to organize them in some way, has to think about them in some way. So within this blue circle, there would be different topic areas, right? So within your industry, within your business, there are different reasons that people query your services or products. There's different reasons that they're looking for. There's different types of things that they're looking for. If you're an e-commerce site, this might be as simple as some of your global nav around, men's clothes versus women's clothes. Other businesses, it's maybe a little bit more complicated, but you can imagine that all of these different keywords fall into sort of contextual or semantic groups that I'll refer to here as topic areas. So let's just use an example that might be familiar to most people, right? Let's use this college admissions example, right? So imagine that a college admissions business, right, is trying to seek people who are going to register and sign up and pay, hopefully, for attending that university or that institution. Within their sort of universe of keywords, we'd say that, this is not exhaustive, but it's illustrative. We could say there's a lot of different keywords that are related to financing. How am I going to finance this? How do I get financing for college? What are my financing options? What are the financing options you present? Maybe people are looking at the application process, which is maybe, related to, but probably different keywords than what shows up for financing. How do I apply? Where do I apply? What are the forms I need? What are the different things I need for, and you can see that you can just imagine that there's these different groups. These are sort of segregated, separate groups of keywords. And within these groups are hundreds or thousands or even maybe millions, depending upon what type of business it is, of different keyword variants. In the age of natural language searching and semantic search and more complexity around voice and mobile and a more knowledgeable or insightful algorithm, imagine all the different ways that people are searching for, financing. 10 different people could probably come up with 100 different variants of how to search for financing for college. And the search engine needs to organize these some way and say, yes, you might say financing or you might say financial aid, but I understand that those are the same concept. Different words, same concept. And so I'm going to lump those in this same group. So hopefully this is kind of making sense about how we can imagine that there are semantic groups related to keywords. So let's take a look at this as it relates to this concept of search visibility that we've introduced before. Let's imagine that we're a college admissions business. We have a college admissions objectives and goals for search engine optimization. And we have these different groups or these different semantic topic areas. And now imagine what we can do with that search visibility figure as we think about this. This is going to be relevant for when we think about our organization aspects. So let's pretend that these blue areas of semantic topics are areas where we do very well. We have high search visibility. And these sort of red areas are where our competitors do very well. So they have high search visibility. Now, if I'm only looking at one keyword, like say I say, how are we doing, this is classic, how are we doing for financial aid, right? I could say, how are we doing for financial aid? And let's just say it's this keyword here, okay? One of these two top keywords on the left-hand side. We could say, how am I doing there? And I'm only looking at my rank positions there. If the search engine views the world with these semantic topics and tries to rank valuable pages across multiple keywords that have the same kind of search intent, then it's possible we might not see the degradation of our rank positions across a semantic group like this. Let's use an example. Let's pretend that our competitor over here starts writing a lot of really great, valuable content and updating their pages related to financial aid. And what happens is that they start ranking on some of these other keywords, things maybe we're not tracking. So we might do well in this one set of keywords, but our search visibility across all these keywords might begin to degrade. So let's imagine that happens. What if a couple of these keywords our competitor starts ranking high? Well, if we have this organized as a group, we would see that the search visibility has been impacted. If we were just looking at these individual keywords, we might not see that. So in this case, watch the search visibility. As more and more keywords our competitor begins ranking for more and more of these keywords within this semantic topic group that the search engine says, I think these are all related, and there's a valuable piece of content that does well over here that people are clicking on that find is valuable. And, this is a related word, highly similar, so I'm going to go ahead and show it there as well. And we see that our search visibility begins to be impacted. And if over time, it might get to the point where the search visibility has been degraded so far, but if only we track individual like one keyword or two keywords for this whole group, we might never see it. We might never see that our whole position across this semantic topic area has been degraded. So we really want to think about that. So sales funnel, semantic keyword groups, right? So a little introduction there. Now let's ask ourselves, well, how do we organize these two factors? What do we actually do with this? And I think this is a great exercise. This is a very good exercise where really all it requires is this. Maybe this and a couple pens, okay? A couple pens and a couple people. But you can use a whiteboard or, do something on a spreadsheet together. It's very simple. So I'll walk through a way that you can take these two different aspects, the sales funnel and semantic topic groups, and merge them together to identify keywords. So imagine we're on the whiteboard now, okay? So what I do is I start with these two lines. Just draw two lines on the whiteboard. And this is a great discussion for a team, right? Get a team together, get everybody in the room and say, okay, let's put these two lines on the board here. Along the top, we say, okay, these three different areas represent our sales funnel. Top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Draw some lines, create a grid or a matrix. And then along the left-hand side, say, let's fill in some semantic topic groups. It's really good to talk with your sales team, customer support team, anybody who has a high customer touch, and say, what are the most common subjects or questions that people ask about related to our business or to our specific product line? So you could get some ideas here around what these topics might be. And then as a group, come up with some initial seed keywords that fit into these different cells within the matrix. So you can start filling this out. And you should be able to see some gaps. Maybe you can say this as, what sorts of content do we already have? Or you could say, let's just come up with ideas and fill out these different things. And you should be able to say, like, we're really missing a word or concepts. Maybe we're not thinking so much about the top of the funnel for this particular topic area. Let's spend a little bit of time on that and just come up with some initial seed keywords. You don't need to be exhaustive here. Just some general ideas of the types of things that people might query. Let's look at an example here. I'll give you an example of doing this. Let's look at a car purchase. So imagine that we are maybe a car dealership or some type of service related to automotive. Here I have car purchase, okay? Top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. And let's say that I've spoken with my sales team or my account managers or account reps, and I've looked and I said, what are really the reasons that people are walking through the front door? What are the reasons that we get a lot of? Well, maybe people have a car broken down. A car broke down, I got to get a new car. Or I have a family member who needs a new car. I got a son or daughter that just is turning 16, got to get him a new car. Or a used car. Or maybe it's somebody that has a functional need. I need to get a new truck for work, right? These are maybe the ways that people are coming to the business. So let's imagine then that as a group we come up with different words that fit in these different areas. Some initial concepts, things that we might see a lot of or hear a lot of, right? So if I have a broken down car, just use this top example, I could say, well, maybe a top of funnel kind of query that I'm going to put in is something related to me repairing what I have, right? My car is broken down. I need to fix it. Here's I got to fix my transmission. Man, it's going to be $1,000. So maybe now as I move in, I start considering, should I actually fix this car or buy a new one, right? Fix or buy a new one. What is the trade-in value? What happens, how much does that cost compared to what I got to do here? Is there any special deals? And then maybe the bottom of the funnel are words associated with this person or this use case where they're, warranty programs. And you can imagine that the search engine is saying, imagine these words that are in here where it's like, hey, these are related. Warranty programs are related to purchasing a new car. Warranty programs are related to whether or not cars break down or not, or the intent of a warranty is there to help you in the event that things break down, right? Or you could say there's a logical relationship from the standpoint of Hummingbird between a loan rate for a second vehicle, the concept of getting a second vehicle, and the use case that maybe you're buying this for a family member, right? Like, why do you get a second vehicle? Maybe it's for a son or daughter, right? Or maybe it's for this use case, need a truck for work. So you can kind of work this out within your own business. So here we have a matrix that's made up of different concepts, right? The seed keywords, maybe we can put in, 5 or 10 in each one of these cells and look for places where we have gaps. And then ask ourselves, well, okay, so we got all these words. Now what do I do with those? Well, this is the starting point for your keyword research process. This isn't the end point. Sometimes people will treat this as the end point and they'll run off and go do content, but this is just the starting point. There's a place to start. Document this, take a picture of it on the wall, and start with your analysis. So what do we do with each cell within the matrix here? 2 things that we can do with these, and we'll walk through each one of these for the remainder of the course. One of the things you can do is to create Keyword Explorer lists or lists of some sort that look at variants of each word. So imagine cost repair transmission. We're like, yes, that's what we want to go after. That's definitely a high use case. What we want to do is we want to create a list associated with the top of the funnel for this use case and then fill in 400 to 500 variants of this word in that list. Okay. Find 400 to 500 variants of that word or that concept. You want to be able to filter and sort those variants to identify the best variant amongst them. Is it cost to repair transmission or price to repair transmission? Price for new transmission, price for transmission with some other modified keyword. You want to find the exact best words to use to take advantage of the fact that some words are going to have higher search volume and difficulty scores, etc. We'll review that. So this is one use case with these cells. Highly related to this is this concept of these labels. So once we have some of the isolated variants of those good variants, then what we want to do is we want to use those keywords in our campaign, track to see how we're ranking across all those keywords, and apply a label to that in our campaign so we can track and see whether or not we're doing well for all of them or some of them and see how that changes over time. So we're going to dive into scaling the keyword research process by looking at it from this standpoint. This is the first thing that we've done so far. Identify broad topic areas. So those would be each one of the cells within that matrix. And then we'd use list features to develop a large list, 400 to 500 keywords of all those different variants. Isolate the best variants, right, to find the ones that have the most desirable attributes. Map those variants to target pages and make sure we have those variants labeled in our campaign so we can track appropriately over time. And we'll dive into the use of lists. We'll dive into what defines a best variant. We'll go over that in subsequent modules.